And we are live. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Friday Night Tech Talk. I'm Mobile Geezer, and if you are on YouTube, you're on my Mobile Geezer channel, but you can also catch us live on Facebook under the Mobile Geezer or George Hayes, and can also catch us live on X under Mobile Geezer. So we simulcast on all of them at the same time. We do this every week at this time. And we talk about some of the tech stories from the last week. I pull up some articles and let you guys see what I think might be interesting to you. And if there's a big story or a big event like there was this week, we'll go over that too. Now, here's Brian. Brian, so glad you're here, brother. Haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. And I know you've been busy, but of course, being as faithful as you are, you always come back on Saturday and spread it around and give that donation. And you're very, very much appreciated. So glad you're here. So Brian is like one of our top subscribers. And we've got a few. So Brian's way at the top, though, let me tell you, with 3 or 4 others. So if you're new here, type something in the comments. Just let us know you're there. And of course, you can partake in the discussion by typing in the comments. Now, if you want to see the show notes for tonight, they are always on my website. So let's go over there and show you that. Okay. And every week, all the show notes are on my website. You go to mobilegeezer.wordpress.com. If you click on the date at the top of the page, you'll get just the show notes for tonight's show. So, as we do every week, we'll give you a little preview while we're here. Now, be prepared. This is going to be somewhat of an Apple-heavy show because they just had their WWDC and they came up with some very heavy-duty stuff, and I just thought we need to go over some of these stories. So, first, we start out with the non-Apple thing. Interestingly, Wells Fargo employees canned for faking work at the computer. So they fired a bunch of employees, I think 20-something, something like that. We'll find out when we go to the story. But anyway, that's on Tom's Hardware. So I just thought that was an interesting story. So they weren't at their desk, but they had software telling the company they were at their desk, but they got caught. All right. Then we're going to the big story of the week for WWDC, Worldwide Developer Conference for Apple. Everything Apple unveiled. And I've got that on Wired, so we'll check that out. And that's, of course, kind of a long story because they unveiled a lot of stuff this week. All software stuff, basically. And after that, Elon got very upset with them. No Apple devices with OpenAI, says Elon. In other words, if you are coming into any of his buildings with an Apple device, if it has OpenAI, you're not going to be able to bring it into the building, which is, some people think it's kind of silly, but I guess this is what he believes. Some people think it's just jealousy because he was there when OpenAI started and then they went monetized and he didn't like that. Who knows? Anyway, just an interesting story on Tom's Hardware. Then we go back to Apple of something else they announced at WWDC called Image Playground, which is part of Apple Intelligence, will let you generate personal images, and it's pretty cool, really. So that's on Tech Radar. After that, then we go to the big part that came out of Apple Intelligence itself. Apple can't call it AI. They have to call it Apple Intelligence. So that's just how it is. Oh, and I went to the Elon story. Let's see. Brian said the iPhone UI design is like Android. It's very, very much like Android. And I don't think they're even denying that they copied a lot of Android stuff, which is fine. And then on the Elon thing, Brian just said, Elon just being a salty ex. That could very well be. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting. All right, so then we're going to talk about Apple Intelligence. And I just said a more in-depth look at Apple Intelligence, also on Tech Radar. This is a long story, so be prepared. Now, as usual, most weeks I have 6 stories. But 3 or 4 of these stories are pretty long, so you'll see that. So we're probably going to be here a little longer than usual. Now, Will, by some miracle, did say he may join this week, but keep in mind, Will works a full-time job all week long, comes home on Fridays, sleeps, gets up on Saturday, and then works 48 hours straight on another job full-time. So when he joins, it's really kind of a minor miracle. I know he probably wanted to join because of all the stuff that Apple introduced, but he's not here yet. So if he comes in, I'll let you guys know. So that's the end of the Apple stuff that I'm reporting on. And I found this story about open source. I called it Open Source and Cybersecurity. Can they coexist? I found it on Gizmodo. This is probably the longest article I have this week. But since all of us, whether we know it or not, are dealing with open source software, I thought it was an interesting story for people to learn about because most of us don't know a whole lot about open source. So that'll be the last story of this week. So nothing else new. So I will go up now. If Ted comes in or Will comes in, I will let you guys know and bring them right in, of course. And usually I say it's going to be a short show with just me. But this one probably is going to be so short. We'll see. So, and maybe in some of the longer stories, I'll jump around a bit. We'll see. So let's go to the Wells Fargo story first, because I thought, other than the Apple stuff, this was kind of the interesting story of the week. So Wells Fargo employees canned for faking work at the computer. So we'll go over to Tom's Hardware. This came out yesterday, published by Jeff Butts. Wells Fargo fires more than a dozen, so it was a dozen employees for faking work using mouse jigglers. I had never heard of mouse jigglers, and keyboard simulation. And oh, we do have Will. You did make it. Well, he's yeah, your mic is muted, but he is in here,
George.
There you go. How you doing, Will?
Not much at work, but I just remembered. I said, "Oh, I told George I was gonna try to go by."
Okay, so you're already at work.
Yeah.
Now this is your weekend job, right?
Nah, this is my regular job. Tomorrow's my weekend job.
Tomorrow's okay. All right. All right. Well, we're glad you came in. I knew you'd want to come in with all the Apple stuff, and this was a heavy duty. Now I'm going through the stories one by one. I started with the Wells Fargo story. You want me to skip
go ahead,
that
because
one?
I can't read. So go through everything, and then I'll just hang
Okay.
out, and I'll try to chime in when I can. And then
All right. The next story will be the WWDC, so you'll be able to comment a lot on there. All right. So here's the Wells Fargo story. Wells Fargo fires more than a dozen employees for faking work using mouse jigglers and keyboard simulation. I had never heard of mouse jigglers, and most of you guys know I was a programmer for 34 years, so it shows you I knew nothing about cheating by faking that I was at work when I wasn't. Brian said, what up, Will? Why did you not warn me? Now I have this Pixel 8 Pro that still warms up like a hot plate.
you got a hand warmer.
Yeah, exactly.
You can always use a hand warmer.
Back to my story. This is by Jeff Butts, published yesterday. The good old mouse jiggler is alive and well. So I guess people knew about this mouse jiggler. I didn't. So I'm going to drop it into reader view, and we'll go through this real quick. Financial powerhouse Wells Fargo fired over a dozen employees in May after allegations that they were dishonest about their working habits. Disclosures filed with the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority in June confirmed that the staffers made it seem like they were working by simulating keyboard activity with easy-to-find devices that tricked monitoring software into thinking the user was working. But got to recognize one of our regulars again. Here's Annette. Hey, Annette, glad you got in here. You got in pretty much right at the beginning. And Will is in here. He's at work, but he decided to join us. You know why, because WWDC. But of course, you're one of the faithful ones. We're very glad you're here. Brian says, hey. Okay. Back to the story. According to the disclosures, the terminated employees worked in Wells Fargo Wealth and Investment Management units. They probably worked in a pretty high-end money, people with a lot of money unit. When I worked at Citibank back in the 80s. I worked our accounts. We did nothing but millionaires and up. Today, there would probably be billionaires. So that's probably the kind of accounts they were working on too. They used special but easily obtainable tools to create the impression the staffers were busily working. In truth, the allegations state these employees weren't even at their computers. I knew nothing about this stuff. A Wells Fargo spokesperson told Bloomberg that the company holds employees to the highest standards and does not tolerate unethical behavior, especially when you're paying them. I like that. Software and hardware that make it seem like someone is moving their mouse or typing on their keyboard are readily available. Tips for using them are easy to find on social media sites like Reddit and TikTok. The devices themselves are available on Amazon for less than $20. Who knew? You can even build your own using a Raspberry Pi and some electronic components. Well, that makes sense to me. You can build almost anything with Raspberry Pi. These inexpensive and widely available devices prevent computers from entering sleep mode when the PC isn't in use. Okay, that makes sense. They don't move the mouse or type on the keyboard, but trick screen monitoring software into thinking the user's active when they're not, which tells me somebody's going to come up with one that also moves the mouse around, I'll bet you, which will make it a little harder to detect, is my guess. Such apps and equipment became increasingly popular during the pandemic's work-from-home era. Glad I had retired from programming by then. According to Bloomberg, Wells Fargo disclosures to FINRA don't clarify whether the discharged employees work from home or the office. I'll bet you most of them work from home. The finance industry quickly and aggressively brought its employees back into the office. However, Wells Fargo waited longer than most. I'm guessing most of them were home, of its rivals to make that move. It didn't start requiring employees to return to the office until early 2022 under a hybrid flexible model. The company now requires most employees to be in the office at least 3 days a week. So glad they got caught and glad they got fired. They certainly deserved it. So I just thought it was an interesting story to start with. That is probably our short story for this week. All right, well, I'm going to move on to WWDC. You still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I just got it muted because I know y'all don't want to hear all this background.
Okay, appreciate it. All right, yeah, whenever you want to say anything, just cut in on me and I'll just hold up for you. All right, so WWDC 2024, everything Apple unveiled, and I took this one from Wired, and it's a long article. Everything Apple announced at WWDC. This was from June. Oh, wait. No, I'm looking at the wrong date here. It's from 2 days ago, I think. And I'm not even seeing who wrote it. But anyway, we'll go to the article. The company's annual developer event was stacked with demonstrations, that's for sure, that showed off the new artificial intelligence capabilities coming to iPhones, iPads, and Macs. Yeah, only certain ones, though. I'm glad I have the high-end one at the moment. All right, so let's drop it into read if you get rid of some of these ads. Okay, this was written by Boone Ashworth, and it was from 610. Okay, so the day of the event. Apple typically uses its annual developer conference to announce big software updates and introduce new devices. But this year, Apple set aside the gadget talk and left plenty of room for what everyone expected would be the main topic of WWDC. All of the shiny new AI features coming to iPhones, iPads, and Macs. Let's see. Brian said iOS 18 is a major overhaul. Yes, it is. And Annette said, oh no, I just updated to iOS 18. Ryan, well, I think you're going to have the good stuff because you must be on the uh, what's it called, Will? The early one?
The beta.
The beta, yeah, sorry. You must be on the beta, so I think you got the good stuff well ahead of the rest of us because I won't get mine till September when they release the full one. So good for you, and that I think. Of course, Apple is arriving late to the artificial intelligence party and has found itself in the position of needing to partner, yeah, with a more established AI company to gain a foothold in the current arms race. In April, rumors emerged that Apple might be partnering with Google. Yeah, we reported on that to utilize its Gemini AI on phones, but that doesn't seem to have panned out. Instead, Apple is partnering with OpenAI for its first big batch of AI enhancement, and that sure seemed to piss off Elon, but we'll get to that. Here's everything Apple announced at WWDC. Most of these features will become available in the fall when Apple typically updates the software that runs on each of its devices. And now the heading is AI always. And in Apple's world, AI doesn't stand for artificial intelligence. It stands for Apple Intelligence. Yeah, that's Apple all the way. In a series of pre-recorded demos, Apple laid out a vision for how users will interact with these new AI features, keeping the focus on personalized tasks and underscoring the usefulness of the AI-assisted capability. And there's plenty of usefulness there, folks. Apple says it can use AI to provide a highly personalized experience for you, the iPhone user, because its system is able to collate all sorts of information the AI has learned about how you use your device. And that's very true. And that's what some of the supposed privacy experts are worried about. I mean, now they can look at all kinds of things that you're doing and have done. And let me say hi to Eleanor popped in here. She says, hi, everybody. Lost track of time. She was watching a great movie. Have a great weekend. Okay. And of course, Brian and Annette came right back. All right. Apple's AI can help with writing emails, reports, and personal text messages. The AI can also generate images inside messages. That's pretty cool. That are informed by the context of the conversation you're having. If you and your friends are chatting about throwing a rooftop party, it can generate an image of what that party might look like. That is very cool, I think. It can even generate AI images of the people you're talking to. So if you're texting your mom, the AI can sync with any photos you have identified as showing her face and then use those to generate an illustration of her. If your mom is anything like mine, she will deeply hate this. Apple Intelligence has advanced writing tools that can generate full emails or messages or review what you've written to change the tone of a work email to help you avoid saying something you might regret later. Now, see, when I was programming, that's something I wouldn't do because what was the best thing I did at work? I'm good at writing memos and emails. The artificial intelligence tool will gain summarization features that can be used to give you the gist of a web article. Yeah, and that's been out there with other companies, or catch up if you're dropping back into a particularly vocal group chat after some time away. That's pretty good. Summarization is something the other big AI players have been doing for a while, exactly. In fact, Google's AI overviews have caused a ruckus recently after its ability to summarize search results have been called out for being misleading. Yes, sometimes really stupid too, sometimes just outright wrong, and also have been demonstrated to siphon content from original creators. And timeout. Now we've got Ted and Will in here. Ted, have you been following? You know Will is in here?
Oh, you got me unprepared.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, Will is at work, but he's got his on mute until he has something to say. So he'll hopefully, pop in whenever he has something to say. So
Oh, hey, Will, what's up?
There you go.
What's going on, Ted?
Let's see.
All right, now
I'm just
we've got
listening.
a show, folks.
I'm just listening to the hate.
Well, there hasn't been any hate, not
There's
here anyway.
there's a little bit of hate in that article.
But there's a huge argument going on about Apple saying it's so secure, and a lot of so-called experts are saying no, it's not. So there's a huge argument going back and forth all over the internet. I know that.
Yeah,
All over
but
YouTube.
how are they saying it's unsecure when, in order for your stuff to go to the other thing, Chat GPT, you have to grant permission every time. So
I
you're getting
agree.
asked what you're doing. So it's up to you.
Well,
Now,
I agree.
if you make that decision, then you know what I mean? You're asking for that.
Yeah, and you're making that decision on a
And they're
moment by moment
they're gonna
basis.
make you select every time. So
Right. And so I agree with you, but I guess what some of the so-called, and I say so-called experts are saying is that once you give Chat GPT access, they're
but they
probably not
can't.
going to
You
let it
can't.
go.
I just listened to a thing about that. They said it's against the law for them to
Yeah,
do anything
exactly.
with your data after they, you know what I mean? They have to get rid of it. Like it's whatever they came up with, it's in the thing. They have to.
Now,
And I mean,
I agree with
if
you.
they do, that's not on Apple. That's not on them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%. I agree with you, and I agree with Apple. But do
There's
I
just
believe that companies like ChatGPT are going to obey the law? Not a chance.
and it's supposed to be encrypted or something like that, so they don't have no
Yeah,
identifiers on it. But
that's true.
they're just everybody's just they're not happy because Apple showed meaningful uses for the stuff and Google didn't.
But and I think you're right. I think the big thing is here, like Apple tends to do, they may come in late, but when they jump in with both feet and they're ready for it, and people don't like it, because
Because
at this point, Apple's seems to be doing this way better than anybody else.
because the only thing I've used any of that stuff for has been to rewrite stuff for me. That's it. Because there's been
Okay,
no other point of it.
right.
Like nobody has
Exactly.
showed me
Yeah.
a practical use case. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And once I have this on my iPhone and my MacBook Air, which I'll have on both, I think I'll probably be using it a lot more because I'll have it on things I use every day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ted, anything you want to say?
I hate Gemini on my Pixel.
You don't like it?
I
You don't
think
like
I
it?
think a
What's
lot
wrong
of
with
people
it?
hate
I've never
Gemini in
used it.
general.
I've never used it.
I've
Um,
tried it and it was okay. And when I tried it, it was okay.
it is so
a lot of-
I will be salty that if Apple is able to has the option to use multiple assistants.
Yeah, they said they
on the
are,
phone.
right?
Yeah.
They already,
They
yeah.
said they're going to.
So like
Yes.
you could use Siri and Gemini in tandem, whereas you can't do that on the Pixel. Like you can't use the Google Assistant and Gemini in
No.
tandem.
Yeah,
and,
because it gets rid of your assistant, right?
yeah, it gets rid of the assistant,
Yeah.
and Gemini can do basic things. Like they're hyping
Right.
up on the advanced stuff with Gemini, but I need
up?
to be you handle the basic things like car like
Exactly. And that's the thing that
Yeah.
they made a big mistake by making it either the assistant or Gemini. That to me, that was a stupid decision. Yeah.
But I don't. Is it going to be like that forever? I think it's just like that because it's still a beta, right? They're probably going to force everybody to Gemini.
Yeah, they're probably gonna force everyone to Gemini, and
That's
I think
my
it's just
guess.
because it's still in beta.
but who knows
Even
how it's gonna
Brian says he hasn't really used it. So. And Brian's
we're
one
like
of the guys
we're
who
like tech,
uses this stuff the most.
yeah, we're tech people, so if we're not
Yeah.
using it, think about the average.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like we're happy
Yeah,
to
and
be on the bleeding
I
edge.
heard the article 2 weeks ago that from the guy in tech who says he hardly uses it at all, and I said, "Yeah, same with me." And that's saying the same thing. And all of us are real techies, so
I think it's because they like rushed. Everybody rushed to be first to put it out, and they
Well,
didn't.
you know what it is? When ChatGPT got ahead of everybody, especially Google, because Google for a few years has been supposedly the leader in AI, all of a sudden they've been behind for more than a year now. They don't
They
like
have-
that.
They have not been the leader in AI. I don't know what if they were the leader in AI. I don't know what AI was. Maybe
They were
cloud
calling
computing.
themselves that,
No,
and
they were the
nobody was
leader
stopping them.
in maybe cloud computing. Let's
But
give
George,
them
that's
that
like,
much.
that's like AI. That's like saying AI equals Apple intelligence. They just
Well,
say whatever they want. You know what I mean?
Actually, yeah, but I think Apple could back it up better
But you
than
know what?
Google has.
You know
anyway.
what though? I think I had
Yeah.
told somebody that before the event. I said that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna market it better than anybody else. They're marketing
Okay.
it and making it sound amazing. Google just
Yeah, exactly.
came out with,
because that's
you know
what
what I
they do.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
They just came out with stuff
And that is
just,
saying, I use Rufus weekly. I don't know Rufus. You guys know what Rufus is?
I'm looking at it right now. I don't know. I never
So
heard
wait.
of this.
George, you know I'm like out of the loop. So wait, Bard. What is Bard?
Bard is what before Gemini it was Bard. That's all.
Google
that is.
can't see what I mean. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous. 17 different things for one.
But I
thing.
think I think the big reason they got rid of Bard so fast because
Gotta
it
get some
screwed up
insulin.
so bad because they were trying to catch up and they got
stomach.
everything wrong. You know.
So Rufus is Amazon's AI for conversational
I didn't
shopping
know that.
experience.
Okay, see, Annette, you just told us all something. The only Rufus I knew was from the Bible. It shows you
Yeah,
what
but
I know.
yeah, but like, how are people even gonna know what they're looking for? Because I was still thinking Bard was something else.
No,
like-
Bard. Gemini.
they just switched
They
the
put
name of it
Gemini
3
in to
times
get rid
already.
of Bard because Bard already had such a bad reputation for the couple of months it was out there. You know.
And then what's Microsoft's?
Actually, Bard wasn't. Bard was
forgot.
more of an assistant for Bard is actually. Bard
You know what,
was first-
George? That's why they're gonna lose because it's Google, and they're
I think they've already
They're
lost because
bipolar.
they've screwed up too many times already. I think, and the current one, Gemini is not very good either. As Ted tells you.
Well, yeah, because from what I heard, is like if you switch to it, you lose some functionality. 'cause
Yeah,
like
like
you
it
can't
is,
do basic stuff.
Gemini is unpleasant on device. Now, if you were to take it on the cloud for like Google search, like maybe it'll be like if you want to be blind and just trust it, like it's a good assistant for Google search.
Okay,
The rest of the stuff, yeah,
Right. Okay.
like Google on Gmail, Gemini is on LM Notebook,
So you've already used this stuff on those things already?
On the other products, yeah, like it's supposed to be. It's on
Okay.
Gmail now too. It's like it's nothing great.
I
Like,
saw they had. I just hadn't used it.
I'm just
I'm
waiting
glad you
for.
used it.
I'm gonna need my AI, especially, and this is for Microsoft too. Like with Copilot, like I'm gonna need my AI to have like data science powers. So like like give me some metrics on my use cases. Like like I don't know, what was it in 2016? When Huawei came in through AT&T,
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
Mate 10. That was the first.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the first time people were talking about. They were talking about machine learning to adapt your smartphone to your use so that it lasts longer.
Okay. Yeah.
No one talks about that much anymore.
And the year that you and
when
I,
Google wasn't Google
the
always
year
trying
that
to
you
talk
and I
about
went
that?
to CES, they were talking about it too.
Google was the last one to talk about it, especially on when the Tensor first came out. But no one's talking about that for their assistants, and this is where I'm gonna need to see this sort of thing for an assistant on my phone for me to like it.
Okay. Yeah. And
Apple's
that's what I
about to-
want to see
Apple's
when I
about to
get it
give
on
it
the
to you.
iPhone.
Apple's about to give it to you
Since when has Apple done
I
anything
agree.
tailored for a person's use case?
right now.
I
Because-
think
because
they will
everybody-
now. Like,
because
my
everybody
impression is
thought-
they really are going
everybody-
to do it.
Everybody thought they were slipping, but Apple was just sitting back watching everybody mess up.
Exactly.
And now they're about to come in and kill it. Everybody.
No,
That's
not.
what I
They're
said.
just using
Apple
ChatGPT.
comes in late, but they always come in and get it right. Or most of the time, they
and
get
listen,
it right much
here's
better
the
than
thing.
anybody
Did
else.
they- all they did,
Apple's about to make everybody raise their game because
all Apple
nobody
did was
even
just
knew.
learn from Microsoft mistakes.
That's what
like-
they're supposed to do. Why? What's the point of coming out being
Well,
first?
they
And
didn't
everybody- listen,
clear a
here's
bar.
The thing.
They didn't clear a bar. They didn't say
Oh, here we
anything.
go.
They just
Ted,
did.
we didn't know you had a bar.
Ted, Ted, they cleared it because now listen,
All they
because
did
now
was
listen,
do the bare minimum.
I'm about to tell you why they cleared it.
This is
Because
why I love having you guys here.
because now it's mainstream now. They came out with that event. It's
That's
been on
true.
every news channel,
You
everything
can't
click
deny
to
it.
that's
If
select.
Apple has it, you know it's
So
mainstream.
now everybody's about to step up their game. Y'all should thank them because nobody cared about
I
it.
agree.
Nobody.
I
could
I
come to
gotta
work
agree
and
with
ask
Will
somebody
there.
what's AI. Nobody would have cared. Nobody ever heard of Bard. Nobody
Because
ever
up
heard of
until
Gemini.
now,
They're just
Microsoft has
using
been
what's on their
doing it
phone.
pretty good thanks to Chat GPT, but Gemini has been
Apple,
terrible. So
Apple's
I
about
agree.
to
They got to
Apple's
step up
about to
their
make
game
it.
now.
Apple's about to make it a thing, and
I
everybody's just
agree.
mad because Apple can come in and theirs can be the simplest thing,
Will,
and it might
Will,
not have all the
Will,
right answers, and it
Will,
might not have all the
Will.
crazy data,
Did Apple
but
make
it's
voice assistance a thing?
no, they didn't.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Will,
Listen,
you know why
George,
Ted's upset? Because
Ted,
you and I have phones that can use this stuff. Ted
Ted,
doesn't.
Ted. Listen, Ted. Here's the thing: when you go to the store, right? And you ask that guy when you're about to check out and you say, "Yeah, I want to pay." What does that guy say to you? Yeah, we take Apple Pay. Nobody says we take Google Pay because they don't even know
That's
what it's
true.
called.
That's
Because
very
Google
true.
barely knows what it's called.
And
One week it's Google
nobody says
Pay,
we take
next week it's
Samsung
Google,
Pay either.
next week it's Google Wallet, then it's Google Cash, then
Now
it's
Yeah,
it
Google
actually
this.
doesn't matter. Now,
Because
now they all take it. Now, nine
yeah,
times out of
but
10,
what
they
is
all use Square
listen?
payments. They
But
all
what's
use
a
Square payments. That means
but what's
they
it?
all ask you for a
Ted,
tip in the end.
The clerks. He's right. The
Ted,
clerks always think
clerks
it's
only
Apple.
know
Yeah,
Apple Pay. Just like
Right.
they
what'd you
it
say? You
doesn't matter
said
because they all take
just
Square.
like
They all use Square or
just
something. So they will if
yeah,
they take Apple
but
Pay, they
listen.
take Google Pay or the rest of them. Like
Android users need to thank Apple because I had a whole bunch of Android phones with tap to pay, and the only place I could use it at was on soda machines because nobody
And
cared
you
about
were
it till
using
Apple
it a
did it.
lot back then too. I
Nobody
remember.
cared about it till Apple did it. That's why Samsung
Yeah.
had to come out with that MST because nobody cared.
Yeah.
Samsung was pushing
Brian
MST, was
Brian
giving
says, "I'm happy
awards,
Apple is ditching the Mickey Mouse UI." And then he says,
and
"I'm being a
then
savage." I don't know why.
yeah, that's the that's
Like
the other
Apple
thing.
Pay is the
Everybody
reason why, like, what's Apple Pay doing for Walmart? Like, millions of people
it
use
doesn't
Walmart.
yeah,
Like,
but it doesn't matter. Walmart is choosing not to use. Walmart is going
Well, keep
against
in
the
mind,
grain.
Walmart
That's
has
all.
their own pay
Yeah,
too. There's a
Walmart wants you to
Walmart
use
pay.
Walmart Pay.
Exactly.
Apple can't do nothing about that. But look,
Exactly.
Samsung bailed on MST altogether,
That they sure did. And you were very upset at that. I
and that was
remember that.
that was a good idea. They just bailed on it.
Yep, that's true.
so
Samsung
let's
said,
not like say like Apple popularize it like it's all of a sudden a good
They
thing. In my
did.
opinion, Apple
They did.
popularizing something makes it worse for
It's
us Android
great.
users.
But
No,
Ted,
no,
this
it
is
doesn't. See,
America.
Makes
this
it
is the
worse.
Ted. You
But
know what?
Ted, this is America. If Apple doesn't
Ted,
do it, it's
this is
not
the
going to
problem.
get
No,
Ted, you
popularized.
but
know
You
what?
know that.
nah.
Ted,
I used to have features that I could do on my Android phone that I could skate by the general
But
population.
you're a techie. This
And
is
then
not the average
yeah,
person.
but I enjoyed it.
that's
And then Apple came and then it's ruined.
did you call me?
And all the
Like
stuff that Will
here's a
enjoyed
good
on Android,
example.
they took
Screen
away.
recording. I used to be able to just screen record my
I didn't call.
tickets and I could just show it to people and nobody was none the wiser
Thank you,
until
Brian, as
Apple
usual.
introduced screen
What?
recording. And then
Did you
now
call me?
all of a sudden people are like, touch your ticket now for it to change colors.
What
So
did Will say? If Apple
Uh,
does it, then it becomes popular. He's
that
right.
doesn't popular does not mean good.
Ted, it does though because if
No, it
Apple
doesn't.
doesn't do it, listen. If Apple doesn't do
Apple
it,
usually
Popular
if
does it
Apple
better than
listen,
everybody
listen.
else's.
Look at
If Apple
AirTags.
listen
How
to me.
many
Hold on.
lives has AirTags endangered because now location
That's
tracking
because
is
Apple
popular?
didn't
Listen,
realize that
listen.
criminals were going to start
You
raping
know
women
what?
with
Listen,
AirTags till after it
Ted,
happened.
Ted,
Apple didn't
Ted,
realize that. Oh,
Ted,
Apple didn't
Ted,
No, they
care.
didn't in the
Ted.
beginning.
Hold on,
No.
Ted. Who can be? Listen. You know what? You didn't hear about it before. You know why? Because people weren't talking about Square tags and Samsung tags and all these other tags.
Yeah,
Apple
I
came
did.
out with
I
it.
did
Listen,
know about
and
it. I
Apple,
knew about
you
Tile.
knew,
I knew about Tile.
you knew about it. But what
But
I'm saying is,
leave that
was
alone
anybody
for the
else
people
using it?
that know. Like, don't let any Tom, Dick, and Harry know about it. Then they ruin it.
Listen,
The more
It's
popular
Tom, Dick,
something
and Harry
becomes
that makes you
does not mean
trillionaires,
it
though.
becomes better.
Ted, it does because everybody pushes. Apple's pushing. Ooh,
And then that's right. It is about the money. Let's face it.
What's up?
All right, can I continue reading now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, George.
Okay.
Ted has to be
Apple
contrary.
Intelligence requires phones with the A17 chip or devices with at least
It is
M1
on.
chip. Yep. That means it
74.
can run on the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, the new iPhones coming out this fall, or any iPad or Mac with an M1 chip. Thank God I have both. So I'm good. I don't have to buy anything. Siri's, Apple's longtime digital assistant that no one really likes, is getting an AI glow up. I never heard glow up before. Apple says Siri is now smarter and better, able to determine the intent and decipher more complicated information. Saying Siri is smarter is like saying the dummy just learned something. So big deal. You can ask several questions in a row, and it's smart enough to understand that the questions are related to one
All right,
another.
buddy.
Something known in the AI world as contextual awareness. And yeah, and I think it's ChatGPT that did that first. It can complete more tasks than before, making it more helpful than it was in the old alarm setting era. The more powerful Siri experience will be incorporated into Apple's core apps, and developers will be able to add the new Siri's capabilities to their own apps. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
You can type out requests to the new Siri, like asking it to set an alarm late at night without waking the person sleeping next to you. Reminder, Google Assistant has been doing this for a while, which is good. Finally, Siri has a new look, a new infinity symbol-like logo, and a new status alert that makes a colorful ring appear around your entire phone screen. Yeah, I haven't even noticed that. Well, I didn't notice it in the presentation. When the assistant is listening to your request or generating a response. Now, of course, I was working
You know what it
doing
reminds me of, George? I forget what
Go ahead.
pixel it was where you squeezed the side and then it
Oh,
kind of
yes.
lit up around the
Yes.
corner. It kind of reminded me of that, the way it looked.
That was like 3 years ago. I can't remember which one
Yeah.
it was either.
It was the Pixel 3
Was it the
or
2?
2?
It was
Pixel
the 2,
2.
I think. Maybe
And
the
it was
No, I think
also,
3.
it was
I'm
also
thinking it
It
was
was
the 3.
HTC. HTC had
HTC.
it first.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were the first ones that did it. That's right. That's right. Okay. The Photos app will get some additional editing features that will let you do things like make more elaborate enhancements to existing photos and remove unwanted people or things from the frame. Yeah, basically they just copied all that
Boom.
stuff from Google.
Yes, that's how Apple does it, baby.
Yeah, that's true. These
And
are
then you
all
see what happened,
abilities that
George?
have
Google,
already been in
Google
Pixel
made,
and Samsung phones.
Google is making
Go
that
ahead.
thing free now. Google
No,
is
yeah, but
they're making it free.
like you always
don't
said they would do, you know.
Yeah. Google's just, making their phones more and more useless.
Google being Google.
Yeah, $50 difference between the 8A and the 8. Come on, Google. Y'all are
I have the
trash.
8A simply because I had the 7 before, so I'm pretty happy
You
with
should have
mine.
just bought an 8.
Some
$50
people.
difference.
Wait.
No, I
Is it the
wanted to
same
try
base?
the 8A, and I
Is it the
traded
same
in my
base
7 to
storage?
get it.
Is it the same
Say it
base
again?
storage? Is it the same base storage?
I believe so. I
It's a
think so.
$50. Of course it is. Google's not going to buy no new parts. They're going to use the old parts. From all those things they got
Now,
just
keep
sitting
in
around in
mind,
the
this is
factory.
Will talking, so we know
Come on
which
now.
way he's
Ted
prejudiced.
knows it's the same storage. No, because George, that's just not smart. $50
What?
different. Like that, you thought they
Yeah,
always say Apple.
everybody
They
has
always say
said that.
Apple's lineup is confusing. Look at that mess that Google's got.
Yeah, that's true. And everybody's been saying that ever since the 8A came out.
And then the other one's
All
always
right.
on sale. It's all Google.
Yeah, the 8 has gone on sale, off sale, and now it's back on sale again. So it's back to being $50 more. All right, Apple's also making photo organization cleaner. Its new Apple Intelligence features will enable it to better recognize people in your contacts and group them together so you can find photos easier. That's good. With Apple Intelligence, you can also search for photos with more natural search terms like pics of Gina riding a skateboard on the park bench. Now, to me, that's pretty impressive. I guess GPT could have already done that,
Does
but
Google
that
Photos do
sounds
that?
impressive. Huh?
Does Google Photos do that?
Not as far as I know. No, it's much
Come on,
simpler.
Google, catch up.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys
Apple
are the
is
leader of
using
AI.
its newfound AI capabilities to create custom emoji on the fly. This is cool. The new Genmoji lets you enter prompts to generate new emoji characters that match the mood of the message you're writing. I think it's very cool. You can mix up classic emoji or generate something new that's more specific to your needs. When an eggplant writing a cheeseburger, you can probably cook that up. Oh, the next story is going to tell us more about that. And yes, it's called Genmoji. It's okay to laugh at it. A more customizable iOS. Many of the changes coming to iOS when an update arrives this fall have nothing to do with AI. The key theme at WWDC was enhanced customizability, and I think they came on that promise. And Apple showed off ways to better categorize your apps, arrange them on the screen to your liking. Everybody's happy about that. And control how apps are accessed. Yes, this means you can arrange your app icons however you like now. It only took them years, right? Changing their color and moving them to any location on the iOS screen's familiar grid. But a lot of people are raving about that now. There's also support for hiding apps. Yeah, nobody gets why they did this. In a locked apps folder that can only be accessed through Face ID verification, so you can keep all
Because
of your
Android
exes
has had
only
it forever. Android has had hiding apps and
But
locking apps.
they're making
they've
such a
had it.
big deal out of it because, like, yes, like people who
Because
watch
people
OnlyFans
are
and want their wife
yeah,
not to
people
see
are
it.
thinking of bad reasons, but Apple's just like
Exactly.
we're gonna catch up to Android.
One word.
Go ahead.
OnlyFans.
Yeah, yeah.
OnlyFans.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the reason.
Well, I think it's actually 2 words: husbands and OnlyFans. Anyway, so yeah, I guess it's cool, and you're right. Well, Will, they're just catching up. There are also helpful updates to messages. A big one is the ability to schedule messages, a thing that Apple had somehow not supported before. You'll also get the ability to style
Finally, schedule
text,
messages.
text effect, yep, and return to messages with emoji. Yeah, and I was saying to Will on Telegram the other day, Apple was acting like it's not a big deal that now they have RCS, and yeah, Will and I think it is a big deal.
It's a big deal for Android people. iPhone
Yeah,
users
exactly.
don't care.
Let's see. Brian is saying the mint colored Pixel 8 Pro only comes in 128. Okay, yeah. Story. That is kind of dumb, isn't it?
That's Google stuff. That's what they do.
And then
They
Brian
know
is
nobody's
also
gonna buy it.
saying
That's why.
questionable choices by Google. The Pixel 8a is killed by the Pixel 8. Yeah, I'm very happy with my Pixel 8a, but that's only because I came from a Pixel 7 to a Pixel 8a. So, okay. Apple, okay, so it's called Sequoia. Apple's new operating system for Mac is called Mac OS Sequoia. The standout feature among those demonstrated today is called iPhone mirroring. Yeah, this is pretty cool. It allows you to sync your iPhone with your Mac and control nearly everything on the handset from your Mac screen. You can make calls, work within apps, and interact with the phone's home screen. Your phone remains locked while you do this. I think that is very cool. Will, do you have the beta?
Wait to try it. No, I didn't do it. Nope.
Okay, yeah, and I didn't either. So we're going to have to wait till September, I guess. The Safari browser will get an update in Sequoia. There's a new highlights feature in the browser which can summarize the most pertinent information contained on a website or within search results. If you're searching for movies or music, highlights can instantly pop up with a preview of what you want to watch or listen to. The highlights feature can also provide directions to the restaurant you're searching for or surface menus and reviews in an instant, things like that. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool that it can do different things like that. Ryan says scheduled messages is going to be awesome. Yeah, I guess Will thinks so too.
Yes, it is. I've been waiting.
There you go. More support is coming for games and game developers, including an upcoming second
Apple has a
version
game
of
mode.
Apple's game porting toolkit. I've never used it. And new Xcode support that lets developers make games that work across all of Apple's devices and platforms. That should be pretty cool.
George, they added a game mode to the iPhone, George.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
the iPad adds up. A new iPad OS feature cleans up your handwriting and generates a font based on your personal scroll. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool in the demonstration.
That
So you can
calculator
paste.
app.
Yeah, everybody's excited about that.
I wish I was in
The
school.
iPad didn't have one. The iPad is
Nope,
getting
it
some
didn't.
interface updates that aim to make the user experience more intuitive. There's a floating tab bar that hovers at the top of some apps and aims to stay away from everything you're doing on screen. I thought that was a good idea. And better customization options for your control center. But what people are most stoked about, here it is that Apple is finally bringing its calculator app to the iPad. A revamped version of the calculator app not only works like a calculator, but it has a new feature called, this was very cool, Math Notes, that let you use the Apple Pencil or your finger to visually work out and solve math problems. It's bound to be a godsend for kids looking to cheat on their
Cheating,
math.
yes.
Well, he had to think of the worst thing. I think that's terrible. But there's honest kids out there. Anyway, I like it. A Vital Watch. The Watch OS operating system is getting some new cycle tracking. That'll be good for people like me. And Ted dropped out. Okay. And pregnancy tracking features. That doesn't help me. The Apple Watch will get an update that gives the device new health tracking features comparable to what's offered by dedicated sports watches like those from Garmin. That's good. A new training load app and analyze how hard you exercising. I should say analyzing how hard you're exercising during workouts, and tracks your workout duration and how your effort changes over time. That's a bike rider. I think that's good. The new Vitals app passively monitors your health throughout the day and may even suggest you've been drinking too much. Well, I don't do that, so I'm not worried about that. What's the password? Yeah, this surprised me. On the security front, Apple is also creating its own dedicated passwords app across its OS platforms. It works like many other password managers in that allows you to generate strong passwords for all your logins. They just confuse me, the strong passwords. It keeps all your credentials in order by storing logins, passwords, and verification codes, and by flagging potential password leaks and security breaches. It's also available to Windows users on the iCloud for Windows app. Now, I may try this because the other passwords apps that I use, they always came up with these very complicated, strong passwords that I had no chance to remember. And I'm thinking Apple will probably
Oh
do
no,
the
they're gonna do
remembering
the
for
same
me.
thing. Yeah, but they're
Yeah,
gonna
but
they're gonna store it in the cloud.
yeah, wouldn't they remember it for me from my phone so
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking may be better for me. Because that's what
Yeah.
stopped me from using the other password managers. They were just too complicated and I couldn't remember stuff. Okay, tap it to me. Yeah, I didn't even know about this. Apple's Payments app has a new feature that lets users transfer money far more easily than before. With Tap to Cash, you can initiate a mobile payment and then hold two iPhones together to transfer the money from one user to the other. And as soon as I read that, I'm like, well, who needs that? And then the next sentence tells me, it'll make paying back friends for a round of drinks much easier. Sorry, Venmo, you had a good run. All right, smarter AirPods. Yeah, in the demonstration, I thought the AirPod.
This was amazing.
Demonstration.
I love
I
that.
thought this was very, very cool. Apple's in-ear, and I don't even have the AirPods anymore. Apple's in-ear headphones will gain new gesture controls that let you nod your head to answer an incoming phone call or shake your head to decline it. I like that. They're also getting better
was cool.
noise isolation
That was
and
cool, yeah.
canceling. Yeah, it was cool. Capabilities so you can have more easily understandable conversations at your jackhammer conventions. Prime Time TV Plus. Apple will add a few software features to its streaming TV platform, which I don't use anymore. There are some accessibility updates like better subtitles that appear when you mute right when the dialogue is spoken or pop up if you rewind a segment to play it again. I think that's cool. There's also a new Insights banner that pops up when you pause what you're watching. It shows you the names and faces of on-screen actors. And as soon as I saw that, I said, well, Amazon Prime already does that. And they mentioned that here, as well as the characters they're playing. It can also identify any of the songs that are playing in the scene. Amazon Prime Videos does this too, through a feature called Esra. Yeah, I've always loved that about Amazon Prime. But Prime is also my favorite streaming app for movies and especially for original shows. That's just me. Face the future. Apple's Vision Pro mixed reality headset just came out in February, and Apple has already announced the first substantial update to the Faces Computers operating system. Yeah, anybody got $3,500? The Vision Pro didn't get great reviews at launch.
I'm sorry, what's $500? The
Not
update?
Vision Pro.
$3,500. I said $3,500.
Okay.
Yeah, the Vision
Not
Pro
to say
did
not the
get
Vision
great-
Pro.
No. So the Vision Pro needs some enhancements to keep pushing the conversation forward. Yeah, they probably do. The biggest update for the Vision Pro will be coming to spatial photos. Yeah, they kept talking. They talked about that a lot, and I'm like, but nobody has it. Anyway, which will include a feature that makes ordinary pictures look like spatial photos by giving them stereoscopic depth and movement. Apple is also enhancing spatial video, partnering with companies like Vimeo, which has a player available as a new app on the Vision Pro. Okay, good. Still no YouTube, though. Yeah, that's shocking to me. Apple says the Vision Pro can
Google
run
probably doesn't want
1.5
to have YouTube.
Yeah, it sounds like they're not being amenable. Somebody's not being amenable to YouTube. That's for sure. Apple is adding better hand gesture recognition to the Vision OS and offering something called train support. Yeah, this surprised me, which is meant to make the Vision Pro work better for people while they're traveling by. How many people travel by rail? Not many. Probably not any that can afford $3,500. Anyway, in the coming maybe. In the coming months, Apple says it's making Vision Pro available to more countries like China, Japan, Australia, Canada, and the United Kingdom. So, got through that whole article, and you guys made it awesome too.
All right, now listen.
This is when I love when you guys are in here because the discussion is so good.
Okay, so everybody's mad because Apple said y'all can customize. The first thing I see is, oh well, I saw a lot of ugly home screens on X because
will you stop that?
Contrast.
Where
No,
did
that's
you
the first
where
thing.
did you see
That's
that?
That's the first thing I heard. MKBHD. Oh, the people made their screen so ugly because of the what's it called? The contrast. They do the same thing on
Really?
Android. They do the same thing on Android. I don't want to hear it. Just because Apple
Yeah.
can customize now, it can become ugly. It becomes ugly on all the phones.
Exactly, it's the same. Yeah.
So
So why
the people want to
single
do it?
them
Let
out?
them
That's
do it.
stupid.
Apple did it better because their night mode tints. You can tint the icons, and they all come out night mode. Like Android is just so
Ted,
mad.
did you hear him say Apple? That you expect him to
Why-
break out? Nobody
why-
does it
why
better.
Why are Android people so mad? Why is the first thing that y'all say?
Well, wait.
Y'all.
First of
not
all,
y'all.
let's not
The first thing that they
let's
say.
not just
the
lump
first
in
thing,
all
the
Android
first,
people. You
Yeah, that's
got a
why I
few
said not
people,
y'all.
that's all.
You know, the first thing that they say is we had it first. So what? When y'all finally get a feature, iPhone people aren't like, oh, we had it first. Look, y'all are just getting decent messaging.
Makes
Y'all are-
sense.
Yeah, because an
trying-
iPhone person wouldn't say that. They would say,
y'all
we
are
don't really
trying
need
to-
that. We don't
y'all
really
are-
need that. People don't
y'all
really
are-
need that. That's what iPhone people
do you
say.
mean?
And
But it
then
makes
when they
sense
get
to
it,
say we had it first because
listen.
Apple's going to make it better, probably.
But that's the
Probably.
thing. That's all they say is iPhone people. They don't say we don't need it. They say I don't have it, and they don't care. Android
Yeah,
people
they
are the
don't
ones
care
who
until
are
Apple has it.
They're
That's
like,
true.
look at
Yeah.
this, look at this. We're fine. We'll just wait. We just wait because when Apple finally brings it, they knock it out the park. Now,
no,
look,
that's not
Apple's
what they
about
do.
to-
That is not what they say.
is
They
what they-
pretend that they don't need
No,
it. That
because they don't. You know
pretend
why, Ted?
that
You know
they
why?
don't
Ted,
need
listen.
it.
Wait a
Ted,
minute.
Ted, hold
Wait a
on.
minute.
Ted,
until
listen.
Apple gives
Ted,
it to
How
them. Then
can
they're like,
you
Ted,
know that?
Ted,
how
Ted,
can
hold
you
on.
know they pretend unless you can read
Nah,
their
because when
minds?
Apple
Hold on.
finally gives it to them
No,
5 years
listen,
later,
listen,
then they're like,
listen.
oh wow, this is amazing.
No. I'm about to hold on. I'm about to tell you how it goes. This is how it goes because I've been pretty much iPhone for the last 2 years. When
That's
you're using
true.
an iPhone, right? You don't care about Android. You don't think about it. It's not even a thought. Nobody with Android that I know comes up to me and says, "We have this great feature." Nobody does that. So when y'all have all these
Brandon's here.
features, I know about
Welcome,
it because
brother.
I follow tech news and all that. But I'm not like hearing about it. Nobody cares. But when we get something,
I think Will's
everybody's
right.
like-
Everybody say hi to Renz.
because most
He's
Apple
probably
people
working.
don't. Most Apple people don't follow all the news. They don't know what's going on with Android. They don't care.
I think Will
They
is
could
right
care
about
less. Because we have iMessage.
that. Yeah.
And that's it. Y'all had grainy video forever.
Well,
And
now you
we're
have
about to help y'all-
iMessage
We're
and
about to help
RCS.
y'all
though.
out. We're about to help y'all.
Good.
So now Tim Cook doesn't have to say, "Get your mom an iPhone."
Yeah, well, that's true. That was one of the dumbest things that for me.
It
that was one of
wasn't
the
dumb.
dumbest
That
things
was
ever.
not dumb. He gave
I
an
thought it was
honest
dumb.
answer. He gave an honest answer. Get
Yeah,
your mom
I
an
think it
thought
was.
it was
I
dumb.
think it was an honest answer.
And this is the thing, because that's supposed to be their position. It's not like, look, think about how dumb that guy was. If I'm going to send my mom a video, so put your mom on Facebook Messenger. Get her on Telegram.
Well, that is true.
Get her
That
on
is
WhatsApp.
true.
Get her like,
That
come
is
on
true.
now. You can't blame
Yeah,
them
the guy who
because
said
What
that
if
was
he
even
doesn't want to
dumber.
put what if he doesn't want to put his mom on Facebook Messenger because of Facebook though?
he should. He should want to though,
Yeah, there are enough
That's
people who
his-
hate
that's
Facebook
his
that's
choice.
probably true.
because
All right, I'm ready for
Because,
the next.
you
Hey,
want to move on.
Jake,
Okay,
you want to
move on.
read the Elon story or not?
Yeah, let me read the Elon story.
Oh, I
All
saw
right,
a
I'm gonna pull it
Cybertruck
up.
too. I saw one on the road. Those things are hideous.
I saw
I
one
haven't-
parked. I
I
got to see
haven't-
one parked.
I saw one
I
driving,
haven't
and I
seen
said,
one
"Who
in
would
chat.
buy
I
I
know,
that?"
saw
but-
it parked yesterday or the day before yesterday.
You know what it reminded me of? Y'all probably remember the show A-Team. I said that looks like something from the A-Team.
Oh yeah.
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun,
there you
dun,
go.
dun,
No, wait a
dun,
minute.
dun.
You're doing this in front of a guy who was advanced. It's dan, 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 dan. Come on, let's
Sounds
get
the
it
same
right.
to me.
Okay.
Must be my ear because it sounded the same. I feel like we made the
I
same
love that
sounds.
show.
George
Shut
had
up,
more.
fool.
George had more energy behind it.
Oh yeah, he definitely had more energy.
Hey, I
the sounds
sang
was-
in rock bands. I like loud, okay?
Okay. Musk says he'll
All right.
ban all Apple devices if OpenAI is integrated at the OS level. Claims
Thank
it
you,
would
Renz.
represent a massive what?
Security.
Risk.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I did the thing on Firefox, reader mode on Firefox, and it just got rid of part of the title there.
Oh,
All
okay.
right, so Elon will lock all in a
Elon.
Faraday prison before guests can enter company.
That's true. That's true.
What's he
I
gonna
had
do
to
about
include
his
it because
own
it sounds so
phone?
weird. Go ahead.
Like, what's he gonna do with his own? What about his own phone though?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like, what's he
yeah,
gonna
the other
do?
day, folks, all three of us were saying on Telegram, like he's not going to get rid of his Apple phone. I bet you.
Like, Apple recently introduced Apple Intelligence, its interpretation of on-device AI at WWDC 2024. At WDC 2024. It is artificial intelligence features designed to primarily run on device, but any task that requires more horsepower will be passed on to Apple's private cloud compute. However, Tesla boss Elon Musk has been rounded by the option to integrate ChatGPT into Apple's AI services, initially with Siri. Musk said if Apple integrates OpenAI at the OS level, then Apple devices will be banned at my company. Bruh, I would just wish Apple was just like, fine, bet. But that is an unacceptable security violation. He then expanded his Twitter X thread by asserting visitors will have to check their Apple device. Oh, visitors.
Yep.
So not workers
Yep.
necessarily.
Yeah, so not him.
Will have to check the Apple devices at the door where they will be stored in a Faraday cage. Or, they could just turn off the phone, but true. But yeah, Faraday cage. As always, Apple is late to hop on a hot tech trend, but it tends to go all in when it moves. And its Apple Intelligence has several attractive key features, especially its emphasis on privacy. However, OpenAI's ChatGPT model has advantage over Apple, especially since the game-changing ChatGPT 3.5 launched back in 2022. This 18-month difference has given OpenAI the advantage, and Apple admits it. Of course, Apple. What? Yeah, like what the hell has Apple had? Duh. Like what?
Be nice.
Craig Federighi admitted this much during Apple Intelligence segment. Still, there are other AI tools available that can be useful for tasks that draw on broad world knowledge or offer specialized domain expertise. We want you to be able to use these external models without having to jump between different tools. So we're integrating them right into your experiences, and we're starting out with the best of these, the pioneer and market leader ChatGPT from OpenAI, powered by ChatGPT 4.0. So I think this statement right here kind of takes away the wind out of Will's sails when he says, Apple is late, but when they finally come into it, they're the best. Craig Federighi is saying otherwise. So how
Well,
about
he's
that,
not
Will?
saying otherwise. He's
What
saying
did
they're
he say?
using
Hold on. What did he
OpenAI to
say?
make them the best.
The
I
last
think.
sentence, we're starting out with the best of these, the pioneer and market leader
They're
ChatGPT from
starting out the
OpenAI.
best. Yeah, they're starting out with the best of what's left. That
Like
they, you know what I mean?
Apple is entering the
No,
AI race, and they
they're
just came
starting
into
with
it, and
they're starting with the best of
they're
what's
not
left.
making
They're like, yeah, they're
any
like, we're
headways. They're not doing it the best. They're just giving the work to ChatGPT.
they're like, yeah, we're gonna start with the best one that's left over. This is the best one out
The
of
best
what's
one left
remaining.
over.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
would
out
you
of
say
what's
left over?
it's like because it's like the best, you know what I mean? They're starting with the best one. We're the best, and now we're gonna
Yeah,
go
the
look at
best
the other
one, not the
guys.
best one left over.
What do you mean we're the best? No, Apple is saying
They're
they're not the best. They're saying,
No,
Apple's like, listen,
ChatGPT is the best.
yeah.
Apple's like, listen, we're the greatest one ever, and now we're gonna let you
Okay.
guys use these other ones. So we're gonna start our
I
using of
wish
the
I
other
Mike.
don't. I
ones. We're
wouldn't
gonna
go
God,
start
that
with this
far,
one.
Will.
That's
I
what it
wish
is.
Mike was here for that one, but
That's
Yeah, if Mike was
Mike.
here, boy, you'd be getting it.
That's that's what it is. But it's
so
okay.
Huh?
Oh, Mike
if
is gonna
you
be enjoying all of these wonderful things. Don't worry.
so if you use
Yeah, I'm
Series
sure.
AI and it feels that ChatGPT can generate better ideas, it will take OpenAI service, which
Talk to.
it will talk to OpenAI service. Nevertheless, this is an opt-in feature, meaning your phone will confirm with you first if you want to share your data, including text and photos. OpenAI and Apple say that users' IP address are obscured when Chat GPT receives requests, and that the former won't store these.
We
Despite
hope.
assurances,
We hope.
despite
Yeah,
assurances,
Elon doesn't believe it. Go ahead.
still has his reservations. He claims that Apple has no clue what's actually going on once they hand over your data to OpenAI. They're selling you down the river. Earlier this year, Musk sued OpenAI for its alleged breach of its founding agreement. However, the company's leadership suggested this move was because Elon regrets not being involved with the company today. Eh, Elon
I
Musk concerned.
disagree because Elon has made it very clear he hated when they went monetary when they weren't supposed to. So he's been pretty consistent about that.
Yeah, but that was after he left them.
Yeah, yeah. I think their agreement said that whether or not he was there or not, they weren't going to go monetary, and then they did. They weren't going to monetize. So anyway, I
But
think
yeah,
he's been consistent about that. But yeah, this article to me is kind of silly, but he's been consistent. I'll give him that. Go
Elon
ahead.
Musk concerns are Elon Musk concerns are technically not moot, especially as Apple and OpenAI are at least on paper putting user privacy on the forefront. But we cannot turn a blind eye to some of the issues that OpenAI have stumbled into. For example, Samsung inadvertently leaked confidential data last year after its workers used Chat GPT at work. Oop. We also cannot discount malware and weak username password combinations that could compromise iPhones integrated with user Chat GPT
Yeah,
accounts.
but you can only blame users for that, not
That's
anybody
true.
else.
Musk's main issue is the integration of ChatGPT itself with Siri. However, this Siri ChatGPT connection is likely to run through an API that would not have access to your iPhone's data except the information that you explicitly send it. Still, Elon Musk and several other users have trust issues regarding AI in general. For some, the opt-in feature is good enough to ensure that Apple will not send your data to ChatGPT, but for Elon Musk, he'd rather not have it at all.
I think here's what I'm guessing. I think Elon's issue is probably with Sam Altman. He knows the guy. I don't think he trusts the guy. I don't trust the guy either. So I can understand that. I think Sam Altman is a smart guy with a ego as big as all outdoors. That's my guess.
The
Anyway,
problem
I
is
just
that
thought-
Elon sees a bit of himself in Sam Altman.
that very well could be. That very, very well, because we talk about another ego as big as all our doors. Okay. All right. I'm going to go on to the next one. Now, should I read the image playground one, or did we talk about that enough with the WWDC? What do you think?
Read it, George. Read it.
All right, I'll read it. All right, I said Image Playground, part of Apple Intelligence, will let you generate personal images. This is from Tech Radar again. So this is from 3 days ago. Your iPhone 15 Pro will soon get a built-in AI image generator. Here's how it works. So I'll get it because I have the Pro Max. By James Rogerson. Let's go into read a view, get rid of some of these ads. Okay. One of the more intriguing aspects of Apple Intelligence, Apple's suite of AI tools, is Image Playground, a feature that lets you use a prompt to generate images. We've, of course, seen similar tools from many other companies, such as Midjourney and DALL-E. Yes, those are the two most famous. But having this baked into iOS 18 could make it a lot more useful. I agree. And we now have a clearer idea of how it works. Yeah, having it baked in to my phone means I don't have to go anyplace else. I like that.
Yep.
We knew already that Image Playground would provide you with suggested prompts, though you can also create your own prompt, which I think is cool too. And while Image Playground isn't yet active in the available iOS 18 beta, Mac Rumors contributor Steve Moser has found some details about the suggested prompts it offers. For one thing, these suggestions will be personalized. That's very good. So, for example, you might be presented with a suggestion based on something you're messaging a friend about. I like that. From forest to fantasy, the possible suggestions fall into various different categories too, and Moser has found a large number of suggestions that might be offered. For example, under the category of nature and environments, you could get a prompt suggestion of mountains, a desert, a forest, a starry night, or a waterfall, among others. For themes, there's adventure, birthday, graduation, fantasy, love, and more. Beverages and foods include a champagne glass, coffee, and tea, and there are also suggestions covering items and accessories, places, seasons, and costumes and categories. Now, of course, me being the singer from all those years, the first sentence made me think Starry, Starry Night, but that's just me. You can see the complete list of the suggestions that Moser has found over at Mac Rumors, but note that there are probably more than this, since certain suggestions in Apple's marketing materials haven't been found in the beta. And this being a beta, it's likely that the complete list of suggestions will be different. You can almost count on that by the time Image Playground launches anyway. These suggestions could appear when you're using an app that Image Playground is baked into, such as messages or notes. That's great. But there will also be a standalone Image Playground app you can then share images from to other apps and social media. And I think that's a very good idea, having that standalone that you can put in others. Beyond the categories of suggestion above or simply entering your own prompt, we know from Apple's marketing materials that Image Playground can also be used to create cartoon-like pictures of contact images of people from your photo library, and that you can choose between 3 styles when generating images: animation, illustration, and sketch. And let's go back up top just to show you they're talking about this stuff right here. So just finish this up. So Image Playground looks set to be a powerful and versatile image generation tool, and it's powered on device, so you don't need an internet connection, which is great. Though as a result, it will also require an iPhone 15 Pro Max, that's mine, or an iPad or Mac with an M1, which I also have, or better chipset to use. So, Ted, you're going to have to buy a new iPhone, I guess. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
as well as the mouse.
All right, Will is back. Okay. I got one on Apple Intelligence. You want it? You want to read it, Ted?
Apple Intelligence.
Yeah. This is a long one. I'm telling you right now.
Now.
Because Apple
No.
Intelligence is so great.
Yeah. I'll read it. I just said a more in-depth look at Apple Intelligence. Again, Tech Radar. And this is from 2 days ago. What is Apple Intelligence? The new AI powers coming to your iPhone, iPad, and Mac explained by Philip Byrne. AI means Apple Intelligence for Apple fans. So, read a view, we go. Okay. Unveiled at WWDC 2024, Apple Intelligence marks a push by the Cupertino company into the world of AI, specifically generative AI. Much like Google, Apple is now exploring how AI can help people in their everyday lives. Only Apple has a big focus on privacy. So for the lowdown on Apple's Intelligence and how it could influence our list of the best AI phones, read on. What is Apple Intelligence? Apple Intelligence is Apple's multimodal cross-platform approach to today's AI computing trend. It's coming to just about every Apple platform and most newer, keyword, Apple devices. Apple Intelligence includes generative AI features like writing and image creation, as well as an improved Siri Assistant and much more. Apple Intelligence takes a decidedly Apple approach, yeah, that's for sure, to privacy, which means that the least information possible, we hope, is shared with anyone, even Apple itself. Most Apple Intelligence features run on your device. When Apple needs to access the cloud for more power, it has a power cloud compute standard to protect your data and privacy. In a nutshell, that means cloud power without data spreading between a load of servers and platforms. And I've got a new person in here. Let me get that first. Ruthie. Hi, Will. I just bought my first iPhone since the iPhone 5. Wow, that's a long way.
Wow.
Quite a learning experience ahead. The sound and photography are so much better than the old 5. I can imagine that. Coming back to iOS from Motorola. Yeah, that is a huge stretch. Well, congratulations. Okay, back to here. We mentioned privacy first because Apple mentioned
What
privacy.
iPhone did she get?
She didn't say. She didn't say which one. Ruthie, let us know which one you got if you have a chance. We'll try to keep an eye out. Apple is also. No other AI company talks about your data privacy and how your data is being protected. That's probably not. Apple is also giving Apple Intelligence unprecedented access to your data. That's for sure. And it will be able to read all of your messages, monitor your calendar, follow your maps and location, record your phone calls, look at your photos, and understand any other personal data. And Ruthie has come back. Okay, iPhone 15 Pro Max, white titanium. She has the exact same one I have. So she'll be able to use Apple Intelligence. Good for you, Ruthie. Okay. Apple Intelligence will offer a new level of contextual features because it will have access to just about all of your personal information. Yeah, that's an understatement. What does Apple Intelligence do? Apple Intelligence includes generative AI features, but it's a more robust platform than just generative AI model like ChatGPT. It will offer generative AI tools for writing and editing, image creation, and organization. It will also be able to offer summaries just like current generative AI tools. Wherever you can type or input text, Apple Intelligence will offer suggestions to improve your writing. It will rewrite, proofread, I like that, and summarize text for you. Apple Intelligence will stay aware of your incoming mail messages and your notifications. That's right. And it will try to prioritize what is important to you. A new reduced interruptions focus mode uses Apple Intelligence to only offer high priority messages that need your immediate attention. I guess that's good. Let's see, what else is Ruthie saying here? Brian said, yeah, we all agree that's a huge leap, Ruthie. She says, yeah, that's why I bought it.
That
The
is
guy
big.
on WWDC said the AI stays on device mostly. That's true. So that very good move, Ruthie, I think. Um, Apple Intelligence will summarize conversations and messages for you, and it can even summarize audio records. I thought that was pretty cool. You'll be able to record phone calls that have Apple Intelligence summarize the conversation, or you can record in the Notes app and get a summary of the audio recording there. That surprised me. For image creation, Apple has a new image playground app, which we just did an article about,
Yeah.
and tool that is part of Apple Intelligence. With this, you can either enter your own prompt using a suggestion one, and the suggestions will be personalized based on what you're doing at the time. So, for example, if you message your friend about hiking in a forest, then forest might be one of the prompts. Thanks to the iOS 18 beta, we have a clearer idea of the prompts Image Playground will suggest too. You can select from several styles for your image, and you can also turn people into photos, which we told you about, into cartoon-like images. Besides the image playground, Apple will have an image generator that focuses on emoji as well. The generative emoji will be called Genmoji. You can type a description, and an emoji appears like that. Apple is applying its generative AI tools to photos as well, but not as strongly as most competitors. There is a magic eraser style tool that removes unwanted objects in photos and replaces them with a natural background. Yeah, I think in the example I saw, I think they did a better job in pulling in a natural background than Google does, in my opinion. Otherwise, Apple is using Apple Intelligence to assist in searching photos and videos. You'll be able to search for a specific scene in a video, for instance. You can also search for a category of photos, and Apple Intelligence will put together a video presentation that fits your search. It will include photos and videos as well as background music it selects. When will I get Apple Intelligence? I think we're going to get it September. Apple Intelligence is available now for developers only. If you're an Apple developer, the latest Mac OS 15 Sequoia, iPad OS 18, and iOS 18 developer betas will have some Apple Intelligence features. If you are signed up for Apple's public beta program, Apple says Apple Intelligence will be available in the public betas for these platforms as well. So it's not there yet. Though it's unlikely the beta will have every feature or that every feature will work completely. Yeah, that's beta. The official version of Apple Intelligence will be available to the public in the latter half of the year. Apple traditionally offers iOS 18 just before it launches a new phone model. So if the iPhone 16 is announced in September, expect iOS 18 to be available a week before that iPhone. We also expect iPad OS 18 to launch around the same time. For Mac OS Sequoia, we will follow the progress of the beta software, and it is likely that the final version of the platform will be available around the same time as iOS 18 and iPad OS 18 in September 2024. Okay, yeah, I forgot how long this article was. I'm going to make this the last article. Will Siri get Apple Intelligence? Yeah, I think we already know the answer to that. Of course, Siri is getting a massive upgrade thanks to Apple Intelligence. Siri is no longer just a virtual balloon that sits at the bottom of your phone screen. Now, when you activate Siri, your entire home screen will ripple to show that Siri has completely taken over. Siri is getting better all around. It's getting better all around. It will have richer language understanding capabilities. Okay, we're hearing your job pretty strong here.
That's not me,
Uh,
George. That's Ted.
oh, is that you, Ted?
I
Oh,
guess
that's
so.
your house. Oh, okay.
The Mavs are playing. We're in the finals.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. That's right. They're about to be eliminated, aren't they? Okay. It will be more natural and more contextually relevant. When you start a conversation with Siri, it will remember what you were talking about when you make your next request, so you won't have to start over every time. That's good. Also, Siri will finally accept typing instead of just speech. That's very good. If you never use Siri, it may surprise you to learn you couldn't type to Siri, but it's true. That's very true. Now you can use the keyboard to give Siri commands and queries. That's much, much better, I think. Siri is
Google
going
did
to
it
do a
first.
better job explaining how to use your device. When you use an iPhone, iPad, or a Mac computer, Siri will be able to answer thousands more questions about how to do things on your Apple product. Siri will also know what is happening on screen. That's pretty good. And it will make suggestions based on what it sees. Apple Intelligence is a major upgrade for Siri that will, yeah, I'd say so, enable far more third-party actions. Using Apple's new App Intent API, app developers will be able to program commands that you can use with Siri. Siri will also know you. It will know, boy, it sure knows a lot about you. Much more of the information you have on your device. You'll be able to ask Siri to play that song Edgar mentioned. Wow. And it will know because it read your iMessage conversations with Edgar. If you ask when is Dad landing at LaGuardia, it will look up his flight details from the message he sent and give you real-time tracking info. That's cool, but it's a lot more than we're used to a computer knowing about us. That's for sure. How will Apple Intelligence protect my privacy? Apple started its presentation on Apple Intelligence by talking about privacy, and it was clear throughout the WWDC 2024 keynote that privacy is a huge concern. Privacy will be a key feature that sets Apple's AI apart from the competition, at least for now. Apple is running everything on your device. While Siri may know everything you said in your text messages, it won't be sharing that information with anyone, we hope. Not Apple nor anyone else, at least according to Apple. Hey, who do you believe? When you create an image in the image playground, Apple doesn't know what images you've created. Even your iPhone 15 Pro needs some help from the cloud when it summarizes the last phone call you made. It won't report anything to Apple. Apple is keeping more complex cloud requests locked in a private cloud compute environment, which cryptographically ensures that iPhone, iPad, and Mac do not talk to a server unless its software has been publicly logged for inspection, according to the Apple Intelligence news release. We hope that's true. Will Apple Intelligence use ChatGPT? Yes, it will. Apple Intelligence will offer free access to ChatGPT in some way. We know that there will be a direct link to ChatGPT so that Apple owners can use ChatGPT to understand documents and images. We also know that Siri will be able to route a request through ChatGPT if you ask nicely. If you ask nasty, you won't do it. Apple is adding a level of privacy to these ChatGPT requests. According to Apple, when you access ChatGPT through Apple Intelligence, your IP address is obscured, I hope. And OpenAI won't store your request. Otherwise, that's why I don't trust OpenAI. Otherwise, ChatGPT's data use policies apply. ChatGPT is coming to all three major platforms, macOS Sequoia, iPadOS 18, and iOS 18, later this year, powered by GPT-4. However, Apple has said that other AI models will become partners in the future. ChatGPT may not be the exclusive large language model partner for Apple Intelligence for long, if ever. Which Apple devices will get Apple Intelligence? Well, I think we already know. Apple Intelligence includes features almost every Apple platform, including macOS 15, Sequoia, iOS 18, and iPadOS 18. Unfortunately, not every device that can run those operating systems will be able to use Apple Intelligence features. Apple says Apple Intelligence is coming to devices that use Apple M1, like my MacBook Air, M2, M3, M4 chips, as well as A17 Pro chipset. That means even devices you can buy brand new today will not get the features later this year. The current iPad Pro and iPad Air devices, as well as previous iPad devices that use the M1 and M2 chips, will be supported. The base iPad 10.9 and the iPad Mini will not be supported as they use older Apple Bionic chips. The only iPhone models that will work with Apple Intelligence are the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. It's good for you and me, Ruthie. The iPhone 15 and iPhone 15 Plus use the A16 Bionic chipset and not the A17 Pro chips. If you have a MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, iMac, Mac Studio, or Mac Mini with an M1 chip, which I do, or newer inside, you should be fine. Apple computers with an Intel processor and board will likely not be supported. So, long article. I am not going to do the last article I was going to do on open source. I will put that in next week's show because I think we got a pretty good show tonight. Mostly thanks to Ted and Will. And Ted has gone away from his camera. Will, I guess you're still there? They both walked away. Okay. Oh, hey, we actually got to see Will for a second. Are you talking? Or we can just can't hear you. That's interesting. Brian said, I'm curious of Apple's Magic Eraser clone. Yeah, like I said, in the demonstration, it looked to me when they were putting a natural background back after they erased somebody, it to me looked better than the Google version. But like I said, that was just in that one demo. All right, so that's the last story of the night, folks. Let me stop screen. And I'm so glad that Will and Ted were here. And now it seems like neither one of them are here. But, of course, those guys always make the show much, much better. And, of course, Will being our Apple cheerleader and our Apple expert made it very, very good for WWDC show. So, guys, that's going to be it for tonight. Thanks for everybody that came in. Thanks for the donations, Brian and Renz. Oh, Ted finally decided to come back.
Sorry
Ted
about
finally
that.
decided to come back. Okay, yeah, Will went away from his at the same time you did, so I had nobody. Anyway, so I'm just thanking them for being here. I'm thanking them for the donations, and you guys made it a great show, which I appreciate very much.
Let me do the last story.
Oh, you actually want to do it? Because it's going to be it's very, very, very long. You okay with that?
Oh my gosh. Maybe.
It's twice as long as any of the other stories. Literally. That's why I said I was going to save it for next week.
All right, then save it for next week. Yeah, because this is long. But I was interested, but yeah, it's long.
Yeah, it's very all right. Next week I will have the open source story for you guys, and it's going to be a long one. So hopefully that means we drag Ted back in here. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, guys. So we'll see you all next week. Please be here. Hopefully Ted will be here. And thanks so much, Will, for being here with us. And that's it. Have a great weekend. And Brian is thanking you guys for coming in.
Good seeing you, Brian.
I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And let's always remember we all do better when we love each other. See you next week, folks.